In the quiet city of Basel, Switzerland, standing near the railway station, there is a strange building that looks like a nuclear cooling tower. It is ugly, it is imposing, and it looks remarkably like the biblical painting of the Tower of Babel. The locals walk past it every day, without knowing what goes on inside behind the darkened glass and the heavy security. But inside this tower, a group of unelected technocrats meets every 2 months to decide the fate of the global economy. This is the headquarters of the Bank for International Settlements, known simply as the BIS. You have heard of the Federal Reserve in America, the ECB in Europe, and the Bank of England. But have you ever asked yourself who regulates the regulators? Who is the boss of the central banks? The answer is the BIS, the most powerful and secretive financial institution in human history. Welcome back to Hidden Logic, where today we are climbing the Tower of Basel to expose the true apex of the banking cartel. To understand the power of this institution, we must first look at its incredible legal status, which makes it the ghost in the system. The BIS was established in 1930 under a special international treaty known as the Headquarters Agreement. This agreement grants the bank and its employees total diplomatic immunity that is even stronger than what the United Nations enjoys. No Swiss police officer, no judge, and no government official is allowed to enter the building without the permission of the bank. Their archives are inviolable, meaning nobody can ever subpoena their documents to investigate a crime. Their senior staff do not pay taxes on their massive salaries, and their communications are encrypted and immune from surveillance. Essentially, the BIS is a sovereign state within a state of Vatican City of finance that answers to absolutely no one on earth. Why does a bank need this level of secrecy and protection? What are they hiding in those archives? To answer that, we must go back to the dark origins of the BIS and its collaboration with the greatest evil of the 20th century. The bank was officially created to handle the reparation payments from Germany after World War I, but during World War II the BIS became the primary channel for financing the Nazi war machine. The president of the BIS during the war was an American named Thomas McKittrick. While American soldiers were dying on the beaches of Normandy fighting the Nazis, McKittrick was in Basel sitting at a table with Nazi bankers. He was helping the Reichsbank launder the gold that the Nazis had stolen from the occupied countries of Europe. When the Nazis marched into Prague and stole the Czech gold reserves, they did not put it on a truck to Berlin. They simply called the BIS and asked them to transfer the ownership of the gold from the Czech account to the German account. The BIS obliged, instantly effectively financing the conquest of Europe with the victims' own money. This betrayal was so shocking that at the Bretton Woods Conference in 1940 the US and Norway proposed to dissolve the BIS permanently. They called it an accomplice of the Nazis and demanded it be shut down. But the banking cartel is stronger than any government, and through secret lobbying the BIS survived and became even more powerful. Today the BIS acts as the central nervous system for 63 of the world's central banks, representing 95% of global GDP. Every 2 months on a Sunday evening, the governors of the Fed, the Bank of England, the ECB, and others arrive in Basel. They enter the tower for the global economy meeting, where no minutes are kept and no press is allowed. In these secret meetings, they coordinate monetary policy, set interest rate strategies, and decide the rules of the global casino. That their real weapon of mass destruction is something called the Basel Accords, specifically Basel III. The BIS has the power to set the capital adequacy ratio, which is the amount of money banks must keep in reserve. This sounds boring and technical, but it is actually the lever that controls the entire world economy. If the BIS decides to raise the reserve requirement by just 1%, it forces banks around the world to pull back trillions in loans. They can crash an economy, create a recession, or spark a boom simply by changing a single number on a spreadsheet. In Basel, they do not need armies or sanctions, they just need to adjust the risk weighting of assets. For example, they can decide that sovereign debt is risk-free, encouraging banks to lend to governments and fuel the debt cycle. Or they can decide that small business loans are high risk, forcing banks to cut off credit to the middle class. They are the architects of the financial matrix you live in, and they design the system to benefit the too big to fail banks. I want to hit the pause button right here because the concept of legal immunity for bankers is something we need to discuss. Do you believe it is acceptable for a financial institution to be completely above the law and immune from police investigation? Or do you believe that in a democracy no entity should have the right to hide its operations from the justice system? Go to the comments section right now and type the word immunity if you think they need this protection to operate globally. Or type the word justice if you believe the BIS should be stripped of its special status and open for investigation, that the power of the BIS is not limited to the past or present, they are aggressively building the prison of the future. Right now inside the innovation hub of the BIS they are coordinating the development of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. They have published papers openly stating that cash is obsolete and that the future belongs to programmable money. The general manager of the BIS, Agustin Carstens, was caught on video admitting exactly what they want. He said that with cash they do not know who is using it, but with CBDCs they will have absolute control over the rules and regulations. They want a system where the central bank can turn off your money if you try to buy something they do not approve of. The Tower of Basel is not just an observer of this transition, they are the conductor of the orchestra. They are testing projects like Project Bridge and Project Icebreaker to connect all the digital currencies of the world into one network. This network will obviously be controlled and settled through the books of the BIS, just like the Nazi gold was 80 years ago. The hidden logic here is that while nations fight over borders and flags, the bankers are building a unified digital infrastructure. They know that whoever controls the payment rails controls the world regardless of who wins the elections. The BIS is the ultimate example of the deep state, a group of unelected technocrats who manage the world from the shadows. They have survived war scandals and economic collapses because they designed the system to be indispensable. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the world looked to the G20 for leadership. That the G20 simply turned to the BIS and gave them more power to regulate the banks, creating the Financial Stability Board. It is the classic strategy of the cartel: never let a good crisis go to waste. They use the crises they create to consolidate more power into fewer hands. So the next time you hear about interest rates rising or a new banking regulation, remember the ugly tower in Switzerland. Remember that the decision was likely made over a fine dinner in Basel, a man you never voted for. That the BIS is just the operational headquarters of the cartel. Where do the individuals behind this system, the billionaires and the dictators, actually keep their personal wealth? Where is the private loot stored that is siphoned off from the people of the world? This brings us to the most famous brand in the history of money: Swiss secrecy. In our next video, we will leave the international stage and dive into the private vaults of the Swiss banking system. We will explore the history of numbered accounts, Nazi gold laundering, and how the world's elite hide their fortunes from you. We will expose the myth of Swiss neutrality and show you that they are actually the fence for the global crime syndicate. Subscribe now and hit the bell because we are peeling back the layers of the onion, and it is getting darker every step of the way. See you in the next analysis, where we open the heavy steel doors of the Swiss vaults.